Jerome. Welcome to the Leoron Podcast. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Jerome, we're very happy to have you this morning. But for those who don't know, can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. So I'm the general manager for PFL MENA. If I look back, I've been in sports for almost 20 years now. Post MBA, I started actually in solar companies, selling solar panels, so completely different from sports. But during my stint at Trina Solar, we actually decided to sponsor an F1 team. And then that was the beginning of my career in sports. So first as a sponsor, and then I had my own agency, sports and marketing agency in China for 5 years. Then Abu Dhabi called me. I joined Flash Entertainment as the head of sponsorship. So we were doing FIFA Club World Cup, AFC Asian Cup, all the after race concerts for F1. And then Etihad Arena open, or even before opening, hired me. I was the first employee, head of marketing and commercial for Etihad Arena. So that's all the UFC, the Hamilton, the Lion King, all those happening. But UFC really was the key. And so when PFL MENA decided to start, it was an easy jump for me, having represented or sold the UFC, promoted the UFC here in the region through Etihad Arena, to do even more with PFL MENA as their general manager.
Definitely. And to be honest, this is very impressive in your 20 years that you've really honed your skill set from a marketing and sponsorship perspective and leading into the sports world. So have you always been into sports, or is this just new in your life?
Yeah, I think it's always been a passion of mine, and always been interested in the stories and the athletes and the whole narrative around sports and global sports. And that's why, I decided to start my own agency, because candidly, it was hard after working in solar, renewable energy. I really want to continue and work in sports. I loved what we did in F1 as a sponsor, but I felt like there was a lot that I wanted to explore and kind of do myself. So I decided to just start my agency on my own and try to make it on my own. And it worked for 5 years. And that's really given me a whole perspective on the market of sports marketing. You have to learn how to sell, you have to learn to market, representation, and really giving me a great idea of what the landscape looked like. And now with PFL MENA, as the general manager, we're starting something new. It's a whole different league. We believe in the future of MMA. It's the sports of the past decade. It's the fastest growing sports on the planet. It's a lot of young people into it. It's now a mainstream sport. It wasn't 10 years ago. So there's definitely, I'd say, phase 2 of MMA. The past 30 years with what UFC started have been, I won't say the inception years, but now we can see globally it is the sport that's people are not afraid to watch anymore. It's a huge fan base. And I think the next 10, 20 years for MMA are a tremendous opportunity. So that's why we started PFL MENA. And it's only our second year. So, we're still a startup, very much consider ourselves a startup. But we can see the future behind. We can see the fan appeal, the fighters' readiness, the broadcasters, the sponsors. The whole ecosystem is there. And, we are here to build it.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, I want to go back a few steps and ask you a little bit about yourself. I'm very curious about your marketing experience per se. I'm in marketing as well. And I'm just curious to know, what's your story? What drew you into marketing?
I think it's a natural, I don't want to say calling, because that'll be a bit too strong, but just a natural appeal. To me, marketing is selling, and to me they go together. I know in the corporate world, sometimes you're in marketing or you're in sales. To me, it's the same. It's it's wanting to tell stories, wanting to meet people, wanting to develop narratives. It's marketing takes a lot of different faces. I've never been really into the whole, Procter & Gamble marketing, category management of, you have to monitor your market share of a razor, and, the innovation is very limited. That's why I like sport, because it's so diverse. There's so much happening. It's, every weekend is different. And I feel like marketing is just, it's just a business, generally speaking. It starts and finishes with marketing, but it takes a lot of different shapes. In sports.
Absolutely. And to some extent, marketing should be something that everybody in the organization learns how to do, or is marketing themselves as well as part of that organization.
You could not be more correct. I think we are all part of the brand story. We all represent the brand. And whether you're in sales, whether you're in finance, the culture of the company shines through you, through the employees. So And we said that culture comes from the top. So if the CEO is very toxic, some of the companies will see a very toxic workplace where people are rude or arrogant toward each other, and vice versa. The culture shines through every employee, and we are all a touch point, and we're all an ambassador of the brand, whether we realize it or not. And, when you meet people from Google, for example, there's a certain quality that shines through them. Oh yeah, you really represent Google. And you say it naturally, and you're like, yeah, because the brand culture is so strong at Google or Apple or some of those big tech brands. But it's not just them. Everybody can do it. We just have to realize that it doesn't matter, where you are in the org chart. You have a piece of that equity of the brand, and you're responsible for it.
Absolutely. And how would you describe yourself as a leader when it comes to, marketing yourself and putting yourself out there, especially when you want to portray a certain image to your team members and the organization as a whole? You, Jerome, how would you describe yourself?
I thrive in environments that are very entrepreneurship, that are very where innovation is rewarded, I want to say. So I see myself more as a captain of a team, to use a sports analogy. And so it's a very flat organization. There's not a lot of reporting structures or code in this. It's very much we're in this together. We all have a tremendous amount of work to do and accountability. And it's working as, I wouldn't say as a family, because I think you need to have a certain business ethics and some kind of reporting and rules. But it's very much we're in this together. And that's always been, that's why I like entrepreneurship, because it's very close knit. It's very, it's a very close unit. And I think when we have this, then the companies work extremely well. And it's harder to do with a big company. We have 2,000 people, where yes, of course, you need to have a much more established org chart, and you have more distance with the employees. I like that small unit, small startup, a lot of risk, a lot of reward, and we're in this together, and there's a sense of pride of achieving something, even if it's just delivering an event or whatever is the task at hand. But you can look back and say, wow, we've accomplished all this, and this is where I find the most reward, and this is where I think I'm the most comfortable as a leader, is those smaller units.
It sounds, touching on what we were talking about earlier, it sounds like you're bringing that camaraderie in the gym between the fighters to your leadership style as well. You're recognizing that is definitely an element in your organization, and you want to lead that as well.
You're right. And I think to some extent, something truly what I love the most about my job are the fighters and their stories. Because when you look at them, so PFL MENA, we have 40 fighters from 13 different countries, all regional. 100% of our roster is regional. So we have people from Jordan, from Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, GCC, the whole Middle East, North Africa region, PFL MENA. But when you look at all of them, they all come from humble beginnings. They're all supporting a family, a community. There's more than just them. There's people behind them, whether it's their mother, the communities, their gyms. There's a sense of, this is me today, but tomorrow it'll be somebody else. And somebody was here before me to help me in this path. And it's, MMA it is a very simple sport in the sense that you don't need anything to start MMA. You do wrestling, this is MMA. You do jiu-jitsu in school, this is MMA. You don't need, a fancy car. You don't need, in F1, or you don't need fancy equipment. Anybody can start MMA after you decide whether you want to turn professional or not. And it's not just fighting, it's really a martial art. So there's a lot of discipline, a lot of respect, a lot of skills to be learned. And I feel like all these are essential and shine through our fighters. And when you look at them, too often the average public will see a Conor McGregor or somebody who's, big personality.
Showy.
Yeah, and who doesn't necessarily represent the sports, when 100% of the people we have in PFL, of the fighters at PFL MENA, are the opposite of that. They are genuinely good people with great stories to tell. They all have their own internal fights that they're fighting. Is it helping my mom, or my kid is sick, or whatever? They all have fantastic stories to tell, and they are good human beings. And I want more people to realize that this is what MMA is. 95% of the fighters in MMA, not just in PFL, all those kind of people. And to me, this is the real sportsman. I feel like too often when you get, in some sports that pay you millions and millions, the money kind of corrupts you, and it's harder for you as well as an individual, as an athlete, to stay connected to your roots. There's this sense of, yeah, of course I have a yacht, and of course, everything is easy, and you lose a bit of that, and it's harder for me to appreciate you as an athlete when you have a bit of that. I like when it's the genuine, the connected to their roots, their community, people that want to do good. And to me, that's the power of sports. It's not the bling bling, it's not the money. It's trying to make the world a better place, inspiring the next generation, giving them values, of how to behave, of discipline, of camaraderie, of respect. That to me is what I like about sports, and I found it in MMA, and
Absolutely.
I'm really happy about this.
Honestly, it's a great way to be someone's role model if you are able to, as you said, hone in on these kind of key values of discipline, of camaraderie, of brotherhood, of loyalty.
Yes.
I think it's lovely to see that in the fighters as well. Tell us a little bit more about PFL as a brand and its story here in the region. It's only been here for a few years. So tell us a little bit about the brand.
So PFL really is the challenger. Everybody knows the UFC. PFL started about 8 years ago now. It's our 8th year of existence. There's no real number two. I think today we are clearly the second largest promotion globally, but UFC has done a tremendous job in bringing MMA to the forefront and the basis of what is MMA. But when you look at it, this is just one promoter globally, and the sports today is global. And, they can do fights pretty much every weekend, but that's it. When you look at football, at basketball, any other sports, there's hundreds of games globally. There's local league, regional leagues, national leagues, global competitions. MMA doesn't have it yet. And there is a need for more promotions to be there, more ways of serving the fans than just the traditional model. Even when you look at boxing, you have 5 big promoters that are serving the boxing needs. And MMA is there now. It was phase 1, the inception, and making it to the mainstream. This has been done over the past 10 years. Now it's phase 2. It's, the market is getting more mature. There's more fighters. There's more fans. The broadcasters understand also. You've seen the deals that UFC has signed with ESPN, for example. We're talking about billions. I mean, this is a milestone for it. So PFL is a challenger. We are definitely, the second, and, have aspiration to be, competing head to head with UFC. And on some points we do compete, and I think on some areas we do better than the UFC. We try to take a different approach in how we operate, and I think that's part of, you only compete on how you're different. So it's not replicating exactly what they've done or what boxing has done. We have this, league format. So in PFL MENA, it's a tournament, just like a tennis tournament. So we have 4 weight class. Each weight class has 8 fighters. And then it's a classic tournament. So the first round, 8 fighters fight. You have 4 winners. Those guys access to the semifinal. Those 4 guys fight in semifinals. 2 of them go in final. And then out of the 2, 1 gets the belt. So it's unusual. People haven't really seen that in boxing, in MMA before. But for us, it goes back to the original idea of sports. It's a tournament. It's fair. It's whoever wins the belt, men or women, heavyweight to lightweight, you get at PFL MENA, it's $100,000. You get the belt. You are the regional champion, and it's fair. You won the tournament. This is it. Just like if you were to win Roland Garros or Wimbledon. And then at the global level, we have, how do you graduate from the league? So we have PFL Europe, PFL MENA, PFL Africa. Yeah. We'll have Pacific coming online soon. And then when you graduate from those leagues, and you make it to what we call the Champions Series above, which is where the champions go. So the champions go there, or the World Tournament. We have 2 of those global leagues. So then it's creating pathways and say, you are the best regionally. Well, let's see how you go, how you behave, how you fight globally.
So all the winners from all regions fight.
They have a chance to access. We decide after what they do. Sometimes they say, you know what, I want to stay back in the league for another year. But yes, the goal is we want you to graduate and go and fight with the champion of Europe, with the champion of Africa, with the guys that were in the World League. Nice. We're also careful of the skills and all the fighters ready, but that's very much it. And so we did an event in Dubai in January, and on top of the card it was Usman versus Paul Hughes. So that's a belt, world championship on the line. But if you were to look below, you had 7 fighters from MENA. So that's part of it, part of telling the story through the card. And the first fight was an amateur fight. So we started the amateur. We take the best amateurs, and we took a handful in each region. So Hatan Al-Saif, for example, in Saudi. We then take the best fighters at the regional level in the tournament, and then we help them graduate and potentially make them world champion.
And how did you find PFL entering the market in the GCC and in the MENA region? How did you, was there any challenges? Was there any local considerations that needed to take place?
Challenges, I'd say a mountain of challenges.
Of course.
But we are lucky enough. PFL has a very smart business model in the way they establish the league. They try to use local capital. So PFL MENA is a separate company from PFL. From a legal perspective, we still are within the PFL organization, but it's a joint venture between the PIF, Surge, in Saudi, and PFL. So it's a 50-50 joint venture, or 49-51. So which really allows us to work very closely with the PIF, with Surge, our partners in Saudi, in establishing a genuine local and regional league, but especially in Saudi being local and operating as a local company. So then suddenly we are on the ground, in the market. We're not like, our competitors, for example, when they do an event in Abu Dhabi, the team comes from the US, they do the event, they get out. We are here all day, all year. We have a full team there. We know the fighters, we know the coaches. We work with the federation, we work with the Ministry of Sport, we work with all those organizations that are part of the ecosystem, and we have a long-term view because we are a Saudi company. PFL MENA is a Saudi company at the end of the day. And really this element of being local or being regionalized is essential on how we do our business. It's not just an event, it's 365 days of business with 4, 5, 6 events during the year that obviously we focus on our brands come alive. But there's so much more that can be done with our sponsors, with our partners, with the fighters. And going forward, we really want to have a full program throughout the year, not just events, but of MMA promotion.
I really think PFL MENA has really embraced the local element, especially I know that you have local fighters, female local fighters. That's genuinely substantial. Even new. It hasn't really been exposed to the market before to have a female fighter. I think she also appeared on the cover of Vogue, Hita. That's just wonderful. And it speaks a lot to what you're trying to do as well in the market.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it was, obviously we want to change things and, the whole fairness of the tournament, men and female, obviously they don't fight with each other. We have men and female separately. But it's part of the thing. You earn the same whether you're male or female, heavyweight or lightweight. And when we signed Hatan, who you're referring to, the Saudi amateur, she was the first ever Saudi, and still today, she's the first ever Saudi female fighter in MMA. She's an amateur. She hasn't turned professional. We are helping her develop, and she will turn professional with the PFL. But I'll be honest, we did not expect that amount of enthusiasm from the market. A year ago, when we said Hatan, she started on May 10th, that was her first fight. Whenever we said Hatan al-Saif, no one knew her. And then, today you go to Saudi, I do that test daily when I'm in Saudi. You ask a taxi driver, you ask anybody who's a Saudi national, they all know Hatan al-Saif. She won the Joy Awards 2025, best female athletes, all sports. We're nominated in this category Iman Khalif, who won gold in boxing at the Paris Olympics, and many other prominent athletes. It's Hatan al-Saif, amateur in MMA, that won. That's to tell you the impact that she's had. Inside, like I said, she's on Vogue, she's on Forbes, she's all across the news, all across the media. Everybody knows her name. We've met a star, and we did not expect that. But that's the magic of sport.
Right.
Sometimes it's, a Cristiano Ronaldo or, and sometimes it's somebody else like Hatan. You're like, wow, you did not expect that. We had high hopes for her, but amazing. We've just signed this week Zamzam Al-Hamadi from the UAE. Same profile. She's won even more than Hatan at the same age. She's only 17 years old. Tremendous talent. I think she's the biggest talent in the UAE, Emirati women, in MMA, and she's a woman as well. So
wonderful.
We might be back in a year, you and I, and discuss about how Zamzam has changed. We don't have a fight date for her, but she will be fighting this year for sure with PFL MENA. And yeah, I think that's the beauty of MMA. You have so many fighters that are ready to enter.
Wonderful. Is she also considered amateur?
She's still an amateur, yeah. So she's 17 years old. She's done the IMMAF, so the international competition. She won a multitude of medals.
Wow.
She is. Her record is impressive, and we were genuinely honored that she wanted to sign with us when we approached her. So we are super excited to have the start. We're trying to make her start in Dubai. We're still working on that, but it would be great to have her start in the UAE in front of her home crowd, because we know that could be a moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what a start for PFL in the first couple of years to really empower women that way in the region.
Women, I mean, all fighters. It's fighters that have talent, and Hatan and Zamzam both are tremendous talent. We have also Malik Basahel, who's from Saudi, who was amateur and who's turning professional on May 9 with us in Jeddah. That's his first pro fight. He's been with us for 2 years now. So he's at the end of his amateur. Hatan and Zamzam are at the beginning. But yeah, helping them develop, helping them grow, and giving them the right basis and foundation and support that you need as a young fighter, as an amateur fighter to, then turn professional. It is still a very, you don't want to be paired with potentially, the wrong opponent or have the wrong people advising you, or, it's easy to lose yourself in those early years. So having, I want to think, hopefully, the PFL helping you is essential in their growth.
Surely. I would like to talk a little bit about your partners in PFL. Can you tell us a little bit about how PFL and Leoron started their partnership?
Well, you know what? Kudos to Leoron, because we started with Leoron before our first event. So, we know how Leoron is obviously focused around learning, but it's also a leader. And we definitely are very grateful for them believing in us before our first event, believing in what we were trying to do, and recognizing that there's a lot of similarities in what we're trying to do. We're more than an event company. We're more than just putting events. It's really about the whole ecosystem that we're trying to build. It's all about, skills development. It's all about trying to work with the ministries, the partners, and really building this platform, building this ecosystem of MMA, of martial arts. Leoron joined us for the first event last year, and it's been a tremendous partnership with Leoron so far.
I think it's very cool to have this collaboration together between the two brands. And I just wonder, what does learning and development mean to PFL? How is it integrated as part of its ecosystem or its ethos?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different degrees here. One, and really what interested us when we started discussion with Leoron more than a year ago, was how does the platform that Leoron offers can translate directly into what our fighters are doing, whether they can use it or they can contribute to it. We have a lot of fighters that, come from very humble beginnings, haven't had much, schools behind them. They just went into fighting. They were good at it. They continued. They turned professional. And, they are towards the end of their career, in the middle of their career, and they're like, well, what's next for me? Or even what do I need now? I need skills to learn how to manage my finances. I need skills to, be better at talking to the press or talking to potential sponsors. I need to develop myself, and I don't really have the expertise around me. I don't have anybody to help me. So how do I do that? So that's immediate need. You also have the fighters that are like Jadal Salawi, for example, from Jordan, probably towards the end of his career. And he's like, all right, well, what's next for me? I could become a coach, I could become a corner, but I also want to do maybe running my own gyms. So I need some accounting skills. I need some, a lot of business skills that I do not have today. Where do I find the skill? And so this is where Leoron can immediately step in. And then it's the other side, when we're talking about Hatan, Hatan talking about leadership, talking about, the place of women, talking about believing in yourself. There's a lot of interesting stories that the fighters can bring to the table and can, contribute to some of the platforms that Leoron has put together. And then we have one, Suhail Tahiri. He's a PhD in mathematics, and he's a fighter as well. So then you have
there you go,
the ultimate star, who's the ultimate crossover between MMA and what Leoron is doing. To me, are the perfect ambassadors for Leoron, and he was an ambassador last year in talking about the skills that he's bringing to the table and how there's a crossover between everything is learned in university and everything that's happening in the cage, and how those two marry each other. And I think those are some of the most inspiring stories as a business leader when you hear those parallel and those narratives from them.
Surely. I mean, I can just imagine as a fighter, you must have some raw, talent in there that kind of pushes you to be, you're aspiring towards something. Sometimes that's like something that's in you that you can communicate to others, or you can inspire others to be. It's not something you learn. It's naturally who you are. So that's something you can just talk about. But there are other times where there are skills that you want to learn from others, that you can, enter courses to learn them, or you can learn from someone who knows better than you. And I think, how cool is it that PFL works with institutes like Leoron to encourage mind and body strength, not just, one or the other?
Yes, and I think, there's a bright future ahead for what we're trying to do. We really want to develop the ecosystem, like I mentioned. So it's working closer with the schools, working closer with the ministries, working closer with the federations, and obviously working closer with our fighters and the coach and everything we can offer them. And especially at the amateur level, those are the skills that they need to learn. They are, 17, 18, 19, up to 22 years old in the amateur. There's a lot of skills that we learn at university in an MBA at this age that they are not really learning. And having a partner like Leoron, being able to help those people, like helping somebody like Hatan.
Exactly.
She is so young and new and, I would say fragile almost. Like we want to protect, fragile in terms of like, everything is new. She's discovering everything. She's suddenly becoming famous. It's obviously what happens if tomorrow she loses, it will affect the confidence. Exactly. Like it's so, those new talents in any sports are so, demand so much attention, and you have a responsibility as a promotion around those, and bringing them those skills, bringing them this expertise around them to help them shape themselves as an individual and find themselves and, find their, establish their confidence, understand, how to speak with sponsors, from a legal perspective, how to read the contracts, how to have the right people around them. This entourage in any sports is the key to an athlete's success.
Surely.
And you don't always have it, especially in MMA. A lot of our fighters are from, humble beginnings or don't necessarily have the surrounding around them or the family. Not all of them have their dad and the mom, or sometimes it's a bit complicated. Being able to bring this, they have us, they have our fighter operation, Gustavo, who's doing a tremendous job, very close to them, but we can't bring everything. And Leoron really brings a lot of skills to the table, a lot of expertise.
Absolutely. Tell us about PFL in the region. What does success look like for PFL in the next 2 to 3 years?
We definitely want to expand. Last year, when we're looking at TV audiences, we realized that our top 3 markets are Egypt, Morocco, and I think it's Algeria, the top 3, like quite by far, and Saudi was number 4. So we see that we knew that, but really the data helped validate that there's a huge demand over there. A lot of fighters, a big culture also of MMA over there. So we want to expand, and we want to expand, to the Middle East. That's definitely an objective for the next 2 years. We want to continue to attract the best fighters, and I think last year really helped solidify this positioning. And this year we've had a lot of new fighters knocking on the door, being like, "Hey, can I get in? Can I get in?" Literally last night we were again negotiating with a new fighter who's been chasing for quite some time. So we want to continue to be that platform where whether you're the best amateur or the best professional fighters in the region, you come to us, and working, expanding our mission. Our mission is not just doing events, it's really developing the fighters, developing the ecosystem. So how do we do more with the schools? How do we do more with nutrition, with the skills like that Leoron is bringing, with medical, with everything that goes around in MMA, and not only preparing the fighters but also inviting as many people as possible to help. That's why schools for us is important, because it's inspiring the next generation and showing them what MMA truly is. The respect, the discipline, exactly, everything that goes around it. Right. And you don't need to turn professional, but it's being more healthy in terms of, your nutrition, in terms of how much sports do you do, all those are interesting and crucial dynamics, really, when you look at the world today. Child obesity, people are doing less and less sports. MMA goes into boxing, goes into wrestling, goes into judo, goes into jiu-jitsu. The region does a fantastic job in jiu-jitsu in schools. It's mandatory, and there's a real culture around it. So it is there for us to help and support what the government is already doing, what the schools are already doing and implementing, and being the next step, bringing our fighters back in schools and showing examples, being leaders, being role models for those schools. So really it's more than the event. It's really looking at the whole, and also athlete transition, what happens after their career, helping the fighters transition after their career. So there's so much more that we could do that we're not doing, or we're doing at a small level, that we've identified, like, we want to do this more, we want to do this more. Right. It takes time. We can't build a whole ship in 1 year, obviously, but that's the aspiration. And that's why us being regional, being local, allows us to do so because we here. We can do meeting. We can go to your schools. We're not based in the US or in the UK. We are here and we're here to stay.
And it's such a delicate line to walk on because on one hand, there's this perception of aggressiveness when it comes to the MMA and the fighting, especially when it comes to young kids. But also at the same time, you're trying to hammer the idea of, discipline, exercise, perhaps defense, learning how to defend yourself, and still encourage that sport to be looked at from a positive angle, not from a negative side, let's say.
Absolutely. And I think there's a very common saying that circulates around that if you want your child to be the most confident possible, put him in jiu-jitsu. And that statement is true. And whether it's for self-defense, I think it's just self-confidence.
Okay. It
builds that confidence in you. And you can start jiu-jitsu at the age of 6. I mean, some start a bit younger, but you can really start young and this is such a good sport. And it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu really. It gives you so many skills into it. So it's, for us, I think we have a responsibility as a sports organization to the next generation and promoting role models that are good people. To me, that is so important because, again, the Conor McGregors of the world or some of those, I want to say, toxic personalities.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do not want my kids to identify to these personalities. And anybody who comes to a PFL MENA event will see, and many other MMA promotion, obviously we're not the only one, many other fighters, you see the genuine respect, the genuine love. There's a lot of showmanship, especially before fight. No, I'm going to kill you. That's part of the show.
Right.
You have to realize that, and that's part of telling the story. And obviously, those guys are putting everything on the line.
Right.
We don't realize whether especially in MMA, it's one-on-one in a cage. That's it. Like, my sport is swimming. I'm in my lane. I'm in water. I don't put anything on the line. If I finish third and whatever, there's no finish second here. You have to finish first, and that's it. And it's 6 months, 8 months of preparation. You put everything on the line. So when you lose, some of the fighters go into a depression or really it's hard for them to get out of it. And you can imagine if you work 6 months towards it and at the end, you lose. And obviously one of them has to lose. So it's really bringing all this to life and looking at having those fighters talk to people. And when you listen to them outside of it, after a fight, you see the real personality shine through. You see the real humble. After the fight, there's a lot of, well done, like a lot of respect after the fight. So even the toxic personalities, you can still see that there's a lot of respect, a lot of love after with, there's a few individuals where.
But also after a fight, you're so raw and vulnerable. It's hard to continue to put that, mask on right after.
That's it. And you have the respect for the opponent who's been, coming toe to toe with you.
Exactly.
And ultimately, they know what they're doing when they're doing the trash talk and we're doing all this. They know it's a showmanship. They're trying to get into their head. They're trying to, intimidate the other guy. That's part of the show. People only remember that, like, no, it's everything that happens in the cage, everything that happens after the cage. And honestly, at PFL MENA, there's very little of that. In this region, the respect among fighters is tremendous. We've never had fighters really going hard at each other. It's so much respect. There's a lot of healthy competition.
Right.
That you would see in any school playground or any paddle court when people are like, I'm the best guy, except those guys are professional and they make money out of it or they lose money out of it. I think the perception of MMA is changing now more and more with organizations like PFL MENA, and the fighters that are in this organization that are true sportsmen and true athletes and really have. I see way more respect in a cage than I see in a football pitch.
Oh, wow.
Genuinely. I mean, the constant, he hurt me. No, it's fine. I'm good now. This whole acting and playing, they don't play. They don't act.
Couldn't agree more.
It's, it's real. Can you continue? They're all bleeding. Yeah, I'm fine. I can go for it. And then the true respect, it's not like, well played, I'm out. No, there's a real connection within the fighters.
Absolutely. You're so right. And I just wonder if I think about, let's say, the persona, the successful persona of a fighter, how would you describe it? I mean, we touched on many topics in our conversation, but how would you wrap it up in, let's say, three words?
Confidence. Fighters are confident. They believe in themselves. But it's a quiet confidence. I don't have to shout it. It's I believe in my skills. I believe in my training. I believe in the process that I put together. I believe in all the work that went through it. A lot of mental preparation also helps. And today I feel like a lot of people are now founding meditation and realizing whether you're in business or in school or anywhere, meditation is important. There's a lot of meditation that goes into it. So, and that helps you build that confidence. So one is confidence. Two is respect. Respect, first of all, for yourself, for everything that you've done, whether you lose or you win, but it's respect for the opponent, respect for everything that has been around, respect for the promotion, respect for the referees, respect for all this. I was saying about football, the referee is too often not respected. A lot of respect in the cage. And, whatever the referee says, whatever the judge says, this is it. And there's a lot of respect that goes into it. And I think the third one is the ambition to get a better life, and using sport as the vehicle towards that. It's, we say at the entrance of our cage, we have 3 steps and say, what do you fight for? To kind of like remind the fighters, what do you fight for? And if you ask any of them, it's my mom, it's my daughter, it's my family, it's my community, it's the people at my gym that I'm sustaining with this. It's my self-redemption. It's all those different stories that are there, and it's
so personal.
Yeah, it's very personal. And I think having a goal and having that dedication towards it it really embodies what MMA is all about.
Wow, that's awesome. In your view, how has MMA been received in Saudi and the broader region?
Yeah, no, tremendously well. When we started last year, we did not really know. I had seen the success of the UFC in Abu Dhabi at the Etihad Arena. The cards were fantastic. The fans were there, sell out in literally minutes. I used to work at the Etihad Arena, so I've seen those slides. But when we started with PFL MENA, obviously, a whole different budget, whole different P&L, a whole different set of fighters, whole different value proposition. So, we were really sure on this is something new. But when I look at, let's look at the data. When we won NBC Action last year. On average, we did 4 events, PFL MENA last year. The average audience per event across the Middle East, North Africa was 7.25 million viewers. 7 million viewers per event on average for 4 events. So suddenly, those figures are gigantic. They're excellent. And obviously our events are long. They're 4 to 5 hours because you have 12 fights on average. So the events are long. So people don't watch the whole thing. Right. So this is more of a people that watch for a few minutes, uninterrupted and unduplicated audience. But those are excellent numbers. So we can see that there's a demand for it. There's an understanding. There's a fandom behind it. What we need to do, our mission is to create the regional and the local stars in those markets. And that's very much our ultimate mission, is developing the stars. So in Saudi, you have Hattan, in Egypt, Omar al-Dafrawi, but we give them the platform to have, out of those 40 fighters, 1, 2, 5 that are emerging, and the fans are like, I love this guy, or this guy's amazing. And this is it. That's where the magic happens. We set up the platform, set up the tournament, and then there we go. Magic happens. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Who are going to fans really associate themselves with? Who are they not? And sometimes it's not always the winner. What stories are going to stick? Sometimes you think, oh, this guy's going to be really interesting. And then, again, Hattan was, we did not expect that much success.
She's like organic
talent.
And,
obviously me as the GM wanted to say, yeah, of course we had massive.
You can take credit. It's okay.
Exactly. But you have to realize that part of it is just, this is what happens. It's the magic of sports and of, stardom and sometimes, the crowd might turn against a fighter and you're like, but why? He's a great guy. And it's, it's cry down of it. That's part of, that's why I call it magic, because I love it and you can't really explain it. You can try to explain it, but ultimately it's just.
Can't.
They love him. They don't like him. That's that simple as that. You can't explain love. It happens or it doesn't,
That's true. Jerome, if you were to tell us what are the goals this year for PFL MENA, what would they be if you were to tell us 1 or 2 things?
The first goal, the biggest one really, is to continue to grow. It's only our 2nd year, so we have to continue everything that we started last year. We are bringing new fighters on board. We're trying to obviously continue to grow the fighters and develop their skills. We sign new amateurs, so continuing and keeping the best talents is important for us. So we're constantly on the lookout for what are the best professional, what are the best amateur, to continue to be the platform where they all fight under. But it's also regional expansion. We want to go closer to where the fans are, where the fans are all watching from, giving them the chance to see their own stars. So want to go to Egypt, want to go to Morocco, want to go to the UAE, want to go. There's so many countries. We have 13 nationalities, so we have to make choices. But whether if it's this year or the year after, getting ready, having this conversation with the municipalities, the towns, the countries on, bringing PFL to those destinations is definitely a goal for us.
And I'm sure you'll be more than welcome in these countries. Okay, so Jerome, now it's time for the rapid fire questions. Okay, I'm going to ask you questions. Feel free to answer them in whichever way you want to answer.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody wants to know, they look up to you and they want to know, what is a book or a podcast that has recently inspired you?
You know what?
Go for it.
Let me take my list, because the last one I read was The Anxious Generation. This one is really good. It's more about, me as a parent giving the right skills for the kids. One that I really liked is for anybody that works in events, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Fantastic book to read. It's a lot of lesson. Anybody who's an entrepreneur should read this book and will recognize themselves into it. Is how we are all accountable and going the extra mile, and how do we constantly try to change things, constantly trying to improve. And obviously it's part of it's told through the story of a restaurant. And it's a real story. How did they become the best restaurant in the world? And all the little details they had to change, all the attention to the customers, all the experience, not just in the plate. Restaurant is a restaurant at the end of the day. How do you become the best restaurant in the world? Fantastic, great one to have. One that I loved, I think it's for just anybody who's into business, and it's The Algebra of Wealth, Scott Galloway. Really good one. It's very simple rules, but it's explained in a very simple way. It's a lot of sense. Scott Galloway is a great marketer. Fantastic one to read. Yeah.
Great.
Sorry, I had to look.
No, not at all. You have a huge list. Like
the list.
You're a reader.
This is really important.
We'll make sure to link those in our bio below.
Another one, Good to Great, From Good to Great, from Jim Collins. Great book as well for anybody who's into business, and anybody who's want to start their own business, is an entrepreneur, or is managing a business, or has anybody who's in the business world. Those are great stories.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Jerome, how do you recharge or stay grounded?
Family, sports. I think it's important to try to have times where you shut down your phone and don't have your watch constantly ringing. Family is the easiest thing. We have 2 little girls, and it's, I love they're 2 and 4. And when you are with them, they are with you 100%. Kids give you, especially at this age, their complete undivided attention, and they are with you 100%. And they call you out as soon as you're too much on your phone or things like this. So it's almost a conscious effort to drop the phone, don't touch the phone, don't look at the phone, and just engage with them 100%. And that's obviously, I'm a dad, so there's immediate reward into it. These 2 little girls as well.
That's lovely.
But this is why we work so hard.
Of course.
It's
and they will call you out. Kids don't lie.
Yes. Dad.
If you could have dinner with any athlete, past or present, who would it be?
That's a good question. I want to say Michael Phelps, because he's in the water. There's no equipment. There's no technology. He's not just better marginally or in some races. He dominated to a level that's never, ever been seen and probably will never be seen. He's not in a sports team. It's 100 meters, 400 meters, 200 meters, whatever he's doing. And he's the best in not just one race, but in 7 or 8 races. How is that possible?
Yeah,
freak of nature. I feel like there's so much that you can learn and that can be applied to every part of your life from this guy that, there's a huge question mark on how do you become so good, so long, in a sport that's it's not fun swimming. You're facing the wall the whole time. Yeah, there's a bit of water and you just swim and swim and swim and eat and nutrition and rest. And it's one of the worst sports you can do. There's no fun in swimming. I don't know if you swim even yourself. It's boring and it's cold and
That's good.
How did you become? There's a bit of a fascination with Michael Phelps. And then obviously he went down at some point. He had some issues with, whatever. And then he came back and he dominated and win again and was in Rio. his story is fascinating. And I feel like he's one of those guys that remain today completely normal, the same way as he was obviously before swimming. But, even if he had not been that successful, he just lives a normal life. He's not on the spotlight. He seems to be very grounded with solid values. Those are the people that inspire me.
Nice.
I'd love to have.
Great example, by the way. Very nice. What's one piece of advice you'd give to aspiring sports executives in management?
It's try to build all the skills that you will need in the future. I would start with marketing, because I think that's an important one to understand. What's your brand? What are you selling? How do you tell the story? The best salespeople are people that tell the best stories. So you need to learn. Marketing is the starting point. And then, yes, you need to go into sales. How do you develop your sales skill set? Selling yourself, selling a sponsorship, selling an athlete, selling everything that is in your portfolio. You're selling all the time, constantly. You just don't realize it. So, how do you interact with people? How do you develop your soft skills? And it has to be organic. Developing your legal skills, because very quickly, I feel like that's a ceiling. Are you able to analyze a contract? Legal. Are you able to structure, a conversation and a deal around legal? What are the pitfalls to know? So it's good to learn that. Learning your finance skills. I feel like it's one after the other. Start with marketing, then sales, then legal, then finance. Because finance, procurement is the books, is the managing your cash flow. It's everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just develop your skills. Constant learning, whether it's books. Be curious, and just the one piece of advice is just try to do the right thing for whichever situation you're in. It's a lot of good sense, but it's what's the right thing to do in the situation. And let's not be silly. Let's look at it from both sides of the table. And then you're going to dig, hold on, this doesn't make sense from a legal perspective. All right, let me stick with the lawyers. What could the same for the finance? Hold on, but they have a point. Let's try to do the right thing. Be curious about it and try your best.
Nice. Very nice. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself in your first week of being PFL's GM?
Okay, so part of it is butterfly effect. Don't do anything because I'm happy where I'm at. No, I think a piece of advice, assuming there's no butterfly effect, would be big picture and time management. The two are linked. It's not two different answers. To me, it's the same, but it's focusing on the big picture and trying to find, the first 6 months were really intense from an hour perspective, and I felt like if I had maybe taken slightly more time to, like you said earlier, recharge, be with the family, not focus always on the small details, more big picture, maybe we could have done things slightly differently. Definitely, it would have been easier on me. So, I feel like I'm better at it now, but it's still something I'm working on.
I think the first few months in anything new is always challenging.
Yeah.
Who do you think will win this year?
Oof, that's a difficult
tricky one.
Yeah. We have a really, really solid contingency of Moroccans. We have 5 Moroccans in the league, and they are, I want to say 4 of them. I'm not going to say who because the 5th one's going to be upset. But 4 of them are superbly impressive, I think. I think there's a very good chance to have a Moroccan win one of the 4 we have 4 tournaments this year. One of the 4 tournaments, I think we have a solid chance at that. I can see a Jordanian as well winning. But
let's see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. And finally, we like to end our podcast with a Leoron question. So we take the Leoron brand and we divide it into Leo and Ron. Leo is your core strength, is what you fall back on, your default mode. If you were to describe yourself at your best, what would your Leo be? And then you have the Ron, which is your softer side, or let's say the side that you're trying to grow and hone. And it's not yet where you want it to be, it's your weak point, but you want to get there. So what would you say is your Leo, and what would you say is your Ron?
My Leo would be probably my people skills and being natural with people, like removing the title, removing anything, just, let's have a conversation. What are you trying to do? What are we trying to do? And just have good sense. I think, it's 2 people at the end of the day, people, it's a contract. No, it's 2 people across the table that are talking. And I felt this is my main skill is my people skills. That's what I rely on. And even when sometimes you're in doubt, often you're in doubt, you're like, all right, try to remove the pressure out of it. What should we do? What needs to be done here? Trying to step back. I remember my first day in MBA, we had a very senior partner from EY coming and say, you're not going to learn anything here that your mom hasn't taught you. And it's this sentence stick with me, and it's true. It's sometimes when you don't know how to take a decision, when everything feels murky and difficult, step back and like, all right, what would I do? What would my mom do? What is the right thing to do? Just sometimes, really putting in a 10,000 feet and asking the very simple question. And ultimately, it's two people talking. That's what it is. Sometimes you're afraid. Sometimes you have prejudice or you have preconceived ideas. All right, step back. Let's talk. Let's take up the phone. Don't write an email. Talk to them. The people skill to me is the great unlock. Sometimes you have imbeciles. You have to deal with. But then be the bigger person. Maybe he's scared. Maybe there's something on his side. Talk it. So yeah, the Leo are definitely the core skill, or I would say the people skill. And the thing you have to get better at, it's a double-edged sword because I enjoy the small environment, the entrepreneurship spirit, the small teams, the, all hands on deck, there's not one job, there's all the jobs to be done, whether it's for me or anybody in my team. We all have to be multi-skilled. There's no, that's not my job, that's his job. No, it's all our job. It's all our responsibility. If you see something that needs to be done, don't just raise it and come up with a solution, or even start implementing the solution, like really having this attitude. But it's being better at, and it's the same answer, delegating and / managing my time. Because it's like, all right, you can't do it, fine, I'll do it. And then I tend to just grab everything or grab too much. And, there's a sense of, I need to be better as a leader in delegating and managing my time more efficiently, and obviously working with a team. Yes, I was the first employee, so I used to do everything. But, being better at delegating and that will help me in the long term. So that's through my 20 years has always been something that I know I need to work on. I'm getting better at it, but it's always something that I think I can improve and I can be better at.
That sounds super relatable. and honestly, your self-awareness is pretty cool. I would say that for me, from speaking to you today, is your Leo. It's lovely to see. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for telling us about PFL. I know I enjoyed this conversation, and I hope our listeners will as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much. No, it's a pleasure, and it's a lot of passion. I think he went through it. A lot of passion, and yeah, I'm excited for the future, and hopefully we'll go back in a few years and look at this podcast, and everything would have happened.
Definitely. Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure.
Thank you.